ultimatum. Proverbials conveying my verbatim proof of braces.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 100th episode of Pride Rules MMA. We did it, ladies and gentlemen. We are here. It is the 100th episode, and we have a great show lined up for you tonight with the one and only Jacob Stitch Duran. But before we get into all that, I have to just give a special shout out to our sponsors, 80K Fightwear, Black Hole Jiu-Jitsu, Madama Jiu-Jitsu, and 2 Minute Warning Sports 360. And our big family over there at Fightbook MMA, Roberto is the one who set this up for us tonight with the legendary Stitch. I am your host, the Reverend Tommy D, joined with me finally by our boy, El Professor, Omar Sangarima. Buddy, you did it again. You were able to get this stupid bullshit website working. Thank you so much.
No problem, brother. I don't even know how. I'm not going to look at it funny because I don't want it to break again. So we're good. Thank Jesus.
Yeah, this was not the night for technical difficulties.
That's what I'm saying. But yeah, thank God. I mean, yeah, it didn't like 3 browsers, so I don't know what to tell you. But we got it up and running. USA up in this house.
Do. Buddy, I'm so excited for tonight. I really am. And, you know, it's funny that we're getting Stitch because when all that stuff happened with the UFC, I'm pretty sure we had the show during at that time. We sided with our man Stitch over there, didn't we?
We did, because it didn't make any sense in terms of what was going on with the kind of bullshit that they were pulling, and he just I liked where he stood. I liked how he comported himself, and you know, he wasn't like, I don't know, he wasn't a dickbag about it at all. He was classy. He could have been, you know, he had all rights to be because of the abrupt way that they treated him. You know, a staple in our sport. You know, he's up there with the greats in terms of, you know, how long he's been with everybody. With all the organizations, you know, but they did the same. UFC did the same to a lot of guys that first came up. You know, whether it was reported as nice or reported as not. You know, I hear Joe Silva took his money and ran, but, you know, maybe that wasn't as bad, but it was a lot of burned bridges. And unfortunately, Stitch was one of them.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? When you think of MMA, you think of the fighters, right?
Yeah.
You think of the promoter. You think of the coaches. I've never seen a sport where somebody like a cut man is one of the most famous people there, the most recognized people there. And I think it's amazing. It's a testament to actually how good he is. I mean, they gave that man to the champions and the high-profile fighters. So that says a lot about who Stitch Duran is, don't you think?
It really, because you have to look at, well, we can just take a look at just the recent fights. What just happened over the weekend with Ferguson and Pettis. I know we're going to get into that a little bit, but good cut work. I know it stopped because of a broken hand, but good cut work kept that fight going for as long as it did go. And that can really mean the difference between, you know, a good conclusion to a bout where it's something decisive, it's something, you know, one guy beat the other, there was a sub, there was a TKO, there was a good fought decision, or something unsatisfying which really leaves every fighter in limbo, you know, and that's really where the fighters look at it. I know you know fighters, I know fighters. A lot of them would, you know, a lot of outsiders would say, hey, aren't they concerned about how they're going to look after? No. Although cutmen do a good job for that too, you know, in terms of minimizing how busted up you end up looking, you know, when you're 40 and 50. But it's really all about protecting the safety of the fighter and keeping them in the fight for that extra round or in the fight for those, you know, next couple of minutes or looking good enough to get the doctor to squint and say, okay. And then we get good fights. People don't appreciate what good cutmen do until you see the handiwork where you have a card that doesn't have good cut personnel on staff. We've seen those. We've gone to enough like Amis or enough, like smokers or enough like kind of sort of legal, semi-legal fights back in the day. You would see some of the butchers that they would call in for cut men, and it's crazy. And it's not like any of these guys do it for the wild money either. They make a living, they do okay, but you've got to do it for the love of the sport. I think that's a big testament to where he's at, too.
Yeah, when I was talking to him last week, he was just getting on a plane, headed out to the PFL event, and then he had to go to Chicago that weekend for boxing. So This is not a man who stays in one spot. He's all over the place and needed everywhere he goes. And I am so excited to talk to him tonight. But, buddy, let's talk about the event that happened on Saturday night. We could talk about the beginning fights. It was, for what it was a great night of fights. I'm sure it did very well on the pay-per-views. You already talked about Pettis and El Kukui. We'll get on that in a little bit. Let's start it off with, first of all, Dominic Reyes. What the hell was his name? Yeah, Dominic Reyes. I keep thinking Jose Reyes. I'm never going to get that out of my head.
No, and I'll never do that either. He could very well become a champion at 205, if and when John Jones leaves the division, and he's going to be, a backup second baseman for the New York Mets.
Yeah, that was such an amazing fight. He definitely put himself on the map with that. The Black Beast surprising everybody after coming back from pretty much almost being TKO'd.
Surprise himself, stop it. He get the fuck out of here. My God, dude, I couldn't. 11 seconds left, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was close, Jesus. Yeah. And then in true Black Beast fashion, gave one of the most amazing speeches about his balls being hot. But as funny as that was, when Joe Rogan brought up the fact, hey, you might be in title contention, he said, I am not ready for a title fight. I'm nowhere near in shape for that. So what does the UFC announce today? Headlining the MSG card, Derek Lewis and Daniel Cormier.
At heavyweight, I assume, right? Are they expecting Homeboy to get down to 205? Okay, good. But
it's heavyweight, but still, what the actual fuck is that?
No, you know what? I think
it's not even a month away.
No, I think that Cormier may have somewhat said okay. Now, Jesus Christ. Now, Roberto, look what he hit us with, Jesus Lord in heaven.
I know. I've been seeing it since
the animation.
He posted that stuff.
It's the fucking animation that gets me. It's the actual veins coming off of his jaw.
And I mean, look, I'm happy for Derek. I really am. Personally, listen to what he said.
Sure.
Yeah. But if you listen to what he said, like in a recent interview, he's like, I'm not really ready for a title fight, but I'll take the money. So,
no,
I mean, is he really...
What they're doing here, bro, right now, what they're doing here, I'm sorry, I have to cut you off, but you know exactly what they're doing with
Killing a Star?
Killing a Star, no, number one for sure. But, like, they're forcing DC into this. I think DC may have had, like, 30% of the say that he wanted to in this situation, and I think this is one of those where I wouldn't be surprised if they announced it before it was officially official, just to kind of browbeat DC into doing something.
It's just so wrong.
It's terrible is what it is. A, there's other people in the heavyweight division that I would rather see Cormier fight. B, as you said, he just said that he was out of shape. He needs to hit some cardio. They asked him, they almost prepped him. Like maybe the producers were in Joe's ear and they knew something that Joe didn't. Where they were going to ask him, hey, how do you feel about a title shot or something? He's like, wait a second. And for all intents and purposes, I know he beat Volkov, but Volkov beat him for 95% of that fight, 97% of that fight. People better with math are going to have a better percentage. But so I didn't see anything from Derek Lewis that made me think that he's anywhere beyond where I thought he was, which was an amazingly entertaining follow on social media. An absolute, black beast of a social media follow, but not, a slugger. They even said it in his lead up. When you have your guys with the top three things that you can bring into the octagon, and one of them is he's a brawler, or one of them is he's like a throwback. He just hits hard and doesn't do any of that wrestle business. Like, that's not a good thing in today's UFC. Even in the heavyweight division, we're starting to see stars. The section that Cormier won. Like, come on, man.
You're right, but here's my thing with this. What was the whole Brock Lesnar thing for then?
Maybe, honestly, you know what I could see that for? Was potentially they teased it, but he might not be able to get clean, bro. We might be at that level. We have to realize that Father Time waits for nobody. He might be at the age where he needs a little juice just to stay fucking put together. And I'm not going to yell at him for it, because my arthritis for a 33-year-old man is outrageous. And I know I'm talking to the choir here in terms of aches and pains. For God's sakes, you got me beat all day. Plus, you actually work for a living instead of sit around at a desk. So, sometimes you need a little extra just to walk around. And with the career he's had, he might have hit that wall. He's already leaning out and slimming down. I think you posted that, where we saw photos of him, and he's looking like a different human being, which, you would think, on the sauce, off the sauce, if you don't look different, then you're doing the wrong type of sauce. But he might very well, almost might be at like a Vitor Belfort levels of just that's where his body chemistry is. Because Vitor is one of the gentlemen that I always hold up, I think he needs TRT to live okay and well. And his body just reacts to it amazingly. It's like fucking hero serum. But Brock might be there too, dude. Right?
See, what I was thinking with this is, it seems like they're trying to rush to get DC his first title defense, because he said once that clock hits 40, he's done.
Of course, they're trying to get...
almost like they want him to defend it at least more than once. So defend the belt against Lewis, which they know he's going to win. This is just like them handing him a W. And not because Lewis isn't good enough. The guy just fought. He was almost knocked out. And
Lewis
he's
shouldn't
not
be
in
fighting.
shape.
No, he shouldn't be fighting. He shouldn't be fighting even before this fight. Those back issues are serious issues. And, you and I, you said it last week, so that's why I'm saying you and I. We're both rocking dad bod here. And, so it's not like we're body shaming anybody. But Homeboy is looking a little more doughy every fight he has. But it's because I don't think he can physically train the way he used to. I really do not think so. I don't think it's just the fact that he's living high off the hog and he's got them, hot ball checks and he's making money. I don't think he can move the way he used to, bro. And I think that's a legitimate concern. There's some vertebrae that want to fucking shit the bed on him, and we're having him go out there and fight. What's it going to take? He probably, you and I both know, he probably wakes up some days and can't feel a leg. Or can't feel, there's some numbness. Maybe his hand starts fucking around. Maybe it just feels like a big, void of emptiness. The way freaky back shit does. And you just plow through it because you're a man. But it's one thing to do that, and it's one thing to then do that in the heavyweight cage for the championship against arguably one of the top 5 heavyweights of all time.
Well, yeah, and it's just like I posted before the show, just when you couldn't think that Dana White and the UFC could do anything dumber than they already did with the Khabib and Conor melee that we're going to talk about.
When you posted that, when I saw that, I thought you were lying. I really did.
No, yeah. Just when you think they couldn't do anything dumber, Dana White says, you know what, hold my fucking beer, and gives us this shit fest. And you know what, we love Derek Lewis here, and we love DC. We don't love this fight. Not right now. Not right now. This is not the fight that needed to be made now. If anybody, if you weren't giving it to Curtis Blades, who rightfully deserves it after the fucking pounding he put on Alistair Overeem, they're making him fight Francis Ngannou now. Okay. If anybody should have got this fight, it was Stipe. Oh, and you're going to give it to Derek Lewis.
They're stuffing Stipe in a cupboard, and he's not even an Indian. It's pretty bad. So, dude, they're hating on each other there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Well, I will see. I mean, it's only a month away, so we'll see what happens around then. But let's keep rolling, buddy. So,
Yeah.
last week when we were talking about this, we said, hey, was Tony Ferguson's knee going to be a problem? Was he going to be the same Tony? Not only do I think he was the same Tony, I think he was more ferocious. Don't you think?
It was like he heard us talking shit about him.
Well,
and he said, what are you talking about? You were talking shit. Secretly, you were
Hell no.
with us. But
I picked the man to win.
I don't know how you, honestly. No, you went with, I want guys with bum legs to still do stuff. All right, that's where the fuck you went.
Dude,
all right,
you could
I
tell
get
he
it.
had a leg problem. Pettis was throwing leg kicks, and he was walking right through them.
He looked like he made a deal with Satan to actually, like, evolve into, like, version 2.0 or 3.0, whatever way, all right? Like, I mean, Eddie Bravo, if it wasn't his student, would be like, I think you got a bionic leg put into it, man. Look into it, bro. Like, I don't know. I don't know what you do, and I don't know who you tag him to fight now. Right? That's the thing. Like, what do you do? Right? I think that's the most intriguing thing of them all. Plus, not to mention, who stops a fight on a broken hand? But that's just me. Like, we could get into that, too. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, look.
Stop it.
You could go both sides to that. I feel the same way that
can't.
you do. Like,
no,
you've got one
go
round to go. You've got one round to go in probably one of the best fights that we have seen all year. And you dip out. Now, look, everybody can say, "Oh, you would know what you would do. You would do the same thing in that situation."
Nope.
Nope. Not when Nick Newell fights every single day with one hand.
That the caption under that was he won the internet, and he was absolutely correct. But what gets me is how do you do that? Is it just me, or did somewhere along the way Showtime lost his balls?
No, you know what I think it was? You want to know what I think it was? He threw everything he had at Ferguson that one round. Everything. And it's just like in Rocky 2. But the man kept coming after you. I
get that. I totally understand that. And you know what? I've been in those situations too. More grappling, obviously. I try to stay away from cage fighting in my old age. But where you throw everything but the kitchen sink at a guy and he just looks at you and he's like, okay, and he's beaten too, but he just has it more. You know what you do for the last 3 or 4 minutes of that round, though? You take your beating like a fucking man. That's it. That's what you signed up for. You don't fake an injury. You don't start coaching a lower belt through a move when they got you dead to rights. You don't do any of that weird, like, stupid shit that you do in order to kind of dog it on people and just not be the nail when it's time to get hammered. But, dude, what the fuck happened? I swear they burned a little doll of Pettis when they burned that car back in the day in Milwaukee town. And because something died, man. He doesn't. I could side with him on either way with the whole getting your money sort of deal. Like, that could go either way. You know what I'm saying? But this, dude, you have one, especially with, like, okay, Nick Newell, hats off to you, bro, all day. But didn't Uriah Faber fight a dude with no hands once? Like, he broke both his hands?
But the thing that gets to me is,
I don't understand.
If he fought that third round and did well, he could have won the fight on the scorecard. With the way that one round went.
Dude, especially if, say, he comes into the third round and he plays it smarter a little bit. I know everybody was getting on his balls because, hey, it's, when are we going to see Showtime? When are we going to see Showtime again? Blah, blah, blah. I get that. And you know what? I was here for it because those 2 rounds were 2 rounds of absolute beautiful, perfect violence that, this is what we're fans of, right? But you play a third round that's cautious, you tag him up and you point him, which he could, even with no one hand, but with 2 legs and another hand, right? You could very well have gotten away and gotten the W. And if you get the W, you're sitting in a much more commanding spot. You have good time to rest up your hand, because let's say that was a number one contender spot, which it kind of was. You still have time while the top of the division sorts itself out. Who the fuck knows what's going to happen there? You can get surgery on your hand and you're all good. He told his coach because he wanted his coach to pull the plug. That's what it was. And I know that coaches are always going to say, I know my fighters. Yeah, you do. And you know when a fighter's telling you, hey, I hurt my hand, but let's do this fucking thing. And when they're telling you, hey, I hurt my hand, please pull the cord for me so it doesn't look like I quit. And for my money, it was the second one. And that blew me away. Because I've never known Pettis to be, like, at the very least, not game. Maybe sad.
it was sad. It was a sad ending to a great fight. And, it's great for Tony. The guy's got 16 wins in a row now. Guy hasn't lost in years.
Call it 17 because he beat that cord, too. He came back from the tussle with the cord, and he's still undefeated. I don't know, man. One of the freakiest injuries, and I think El Cucuy is an actual El Cucuy because there's no other.
He didn't miss a beat, dude. He didn't miss a beat.
You heard that? You heard that in the how they were talking? He didn't do PT,
Yeah, well, you know what? Look, there's a lot of people that are like that. They find their own ways of doing things, and it works for them. Sometimes PT doesn't work for people. Me personally, I hate physical therapy. I hate it with a passion. I also, when we talk about the mindset, if you have the mindset that this is what you're doing and this is working for you, maybe it is. It's that whole placebo effect stuff. You know what I mean? If it's working for you and you believe it's working for you, then it is. Who knows? But you saw him that night. Pettis threw everything he had at him, leg kicks, everything. Tony didn't miss a beat. So the 155 division is now exciting again. And before we're getting ready to call our man Stitch to get this 100th celebration underway here, Conor Khabib fight. It went exactly, well, no, I can't say it did not go exactly as we thought, because Khabib had no problem standing with Conor.
Oh, Jesus. I knew you were gonna come up with that one, but
where was the knockdown? Who knocked who down? Tell me.
You were insufferable last week, Tommy. That's all.
Was he shooting for his life? Well, there was reasons for it, and I'm glad that I was, because there are just some Conor fans that are just so out there. It's awful. It's sickening.
Can we talk about the riot though before we call Stitch, or are we gonna table that for later? Because I don't know, man. That was.
I want to get Stitch's take on that. To be honest with you.
I got you. All I want to say is that this is one of the few times my girls looked over at me and gone, I'm so glad you bought this pay-per-view so we could see this, because they would cut it on a replay. I'm like, yo.
Oh yeah, you'll never, when that finally goes on to Fight Pass.
And she's like, has this ever happened again? And I'm like, let me tell you the story of Strikeforce on CBS. Remember that one, Tommy?
Oh, I sure do.
Oh, my sweet
Diaz
Lord.
brothers.
Yes. Fucking
Diaz
Mayhem
brothers,
Miller.
Jake Shields.
Mayhem Miller. Oh, my God. And what, Homeboy, the announcer, being like, this is terrible. Like, he's just ragging his own product because they dragged him out of a football casting booth to cover MMA.
Yeah, but you know what? This situation is why I say all the time I cannot stand the trash talking. And the UFC is solely to blame for what happened that night.
Absolutely.
100%. They are solely to blame.
The meme that said, the second that they used the dolly footage, they lost all credibility and moral high ground in a situation like this was spot on.
Absolutely.
I know.
And it wasn't
Yeah.
just that. It's the fact that they let this guy say whatever he wants about whoever he wants. Anybody who listened to Joe Rogan's interview with Kavanaugh
Yes.
even came out and said, I do
Yeah.
not blame Khabib for reacting the way that he did. I hope they're lenient on him. You know why? Because he knows Dylan Dennis is a piece of shit. He pretty much said it.
Yes.
He knows that Conor goes way too over the top with certain things.
He danced around it too, though, right? But like he kind of was just like, yeah, not feeling him. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
you know, because that's
wow.
and it's the truth. It's the truth. They promoted this guy to just do whatever he wants. You know, how do you start your promotional video with a felony?
That, you know what? When you put it in those terms, yeah, that is pretty wild. And I'm giving shout outs to the girl left and right here, but she looks to me when that was the start of it, right? She goes, oh man, they're using that? They're bringing that in? You know, because it was one of those things. It's like would you? I mean, okay, I'm not equating the two actions here, right? But would you start an NFL show, you know, an NFL game, you know, showing Ray Lewis allegedly licking shots at somebody, right? To start the Super Bowl? No, just to hype it up. You're like, oh, he's a real killer. Oh man, watch out! Like, come on, man. All right. You can't get away.
They did this, and you know, letting Conor say whatever he wanted to say to Khabib about his religion, his father, all that stuff. Khabib is Russian. Tony Soprano said it best himself. Don't mess with the Russians, Janice. Why? Because they are a different breed. They do not care. They don't care. They don't look at things as a show. They don't look at it as part of the show, like Conor say midway through the fight. They don't look at it that way. Khabib took that very serious, and he took it to heart, and so did everybody else in his team, and that's why we had happen with what happened. It's exciting.
Yellow.
Stitch?
Yes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have the legend in MMA and combat sports, the one and only Jacob Stitch Duran. Stitch, thank you so much for taking the time out to be on our 100 celebration show tonight.
Hey, well, congratulations, man. 100. You know, that's a pretty big milestone in anybody's book. So glad to be here, man. And you know, like we spoke earlier, got a shitload of stories, man. So shoot.
Well, before we jump into that, Stitch, we were obvious. I'm sure you saw the event Saturday night with Conor and Khabib.
Well, actually, no, I didn't. You know, I had a boxing show in Chicago under the zone. Jesse Vargas fought a 12-round fight. It ended up a draw, so I missed it. But of course, you know, everybody sent me highlights and all the information that anybody would need. But yeah, kind of a crazy night.
Well, since you were in the game and in that company for as long as you were, don't you think that they are solely responsible for what happened right there? You
talking about who? The UFC?
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. I think, you know, they created that. And, you know, the thing about Khabib, and, you know, I mean, I know Khabib. I remember I worked his fights when he first came into the UFC. And, you know, every time I've worked the Professional Fight League or Bellator or any of these organizations where the fighters from Dagestan are on the card, I'm always the guy to wrap their hands. And, you know, so I understand these guys. And, you know, the thing about it, they're very serious people, but they're very dedicated to the religion. And, you know, in anybody's life, Tommy, you just, you know, you don't bash parents or family, and definitely you don't bash religion. And I think Conor McGregor kind of took it way beyond the extremes. And you know, Khabib being the man that he is, and you know, it became personal. And so, you know, in that aspect, yeah, it's a little crazy what he did, but I understand why he did it.
Yeah, I mean, we've been kind of talking about that too. Jacob, you're also on with my buddy Omar here. He's our tech guy. Omar, You got any questions for Stitch before we get this rolling?
I'm gonna let you guys take it away. I'm honored to be on the same line here, Stitch. Thank you so much for joining us.
What's up, Omar?
How are you, sir?
I'm all right, man.
So you said you're working with PFL and you had the boxing this Saturday night. How do you like the PFL? Do you like their format that they're doing here?
Yeah, of course, man. You know, I show you the crazy weekend I had. I did the PFL in New Orleans on Friday, and 7 o'clock in the morning, I had a direct flight to Chicago so I could work with Jesse Vargas. So, you know, I got to experience both worlds. But, of course, man, you know, anytime these fighters are in a tournament type of series, you know, that's good for the sport and it's good for the fighters because it gives them some motivation to continue forward. You know, I was with Andre Ward when he fought in the Super 6 tournament, you know, so – and then obviously, you know, working the K1 fights and all that, you know, they went into these type of tournaments. So I think it's good for the business, and I know the fans enjoy it, and you get to see the progression of these fighters that kind of bloom up and head up to the top. So, yeah, I enjoy it big time.
So before we get into your stories, I hope you got some really good ones. I've always wanted to know this. How does one become a cut man?
Yeah. I get that question all the time, and I laugh, right? Because it's funny, and I guess Steve Mazzagatti, that was a referee here till Dana White bashed him. You know, he said, you know, Stitch, you revolutionized being a cut man, and I think I did. You know, it seems everybody wants they see what we do, and everybody wants to be a cut man, and I get messages and calls on a regular basis on what it takes to be a cut man, and you know what I tell these guys is, you know, first and foremost, you know, you got to spend hours and days and weeks and months and even years in the gym, you know, working as a fighter, working with the fighters and giving so much back. You know, that's where you learn to wrap hands and, you know, you got to buy your own gauze and tape. And, you know, you go in there and you learn how to wrap hands and you practice on these fighters and you get their confidence level up, you know, and then, you know, you start working corners, and as you're working corners and you learn to be a cut man. But those are just the basic principles, because when it comes to cuts, there's no schools out there, you know, where you could actually learn how to work on a cut. That has to be like on-the-job type of position, and you know, that's what separates a guy that just wraps hands or a guy that is a cut man that wraps hands and works cuts, and psychologically, you know, on that side. So yeah, it's not an easy thing to do. I know there was a girl at the Mayweather gym last week, you know, that she's a nurse, you know, and I get these nurses and doctors and paramedics and medics. Everybody wants to be a cut man, and I tell them the exact same thing. You know, go and spend some time in the gym. You know, if you do it for the money, you do it for the wrong reasons, because you're not going to be making no money down, you know, until you get really established. So it's not as easy as people want it to be.
You got to have a strong stomach for that, for some of these gnarly cuts. And, you know, like, what was it, Mark Hominick, when he had that, like, fetus growing out of the side of his forehead, that one fight. I mean, you got to have a strong stomach for that, no?
Well, it's not so much a strong stomach. I mean, you definitely have to keep a composure under those situations. And like Mark, you know, you have to understand what, you know, whenever a doctor or a referee stops a fight, they do it for one reason, is when the fighter is at a disadvantage. And Mark Hominick, even though as bad as that big old grapefruit looked on his head, it was not in a position that was going to create any kind of damage to him, you know, whether it was short-term or long-term outside of the swelling. It looked horrible, but in reality, it wasn't going to affect his performance at all. So, yeah, didn't look good, you know, but nonetheless, it didn't make a difference in his fighting.
That's insane. I mean, you said, I mean, you've been in this game for so long. So go ahead. Let's hear some really, really good Stitch stories. We're on the edge of our seat here.
Well, I guess, you know, you could just kind of, you know, throw out a fighter's name, and I'll see if I get you a story with him, you know, and work with a lot of guys in the combat industry, and it's a lot easier to give you behind-the-scenes stories when you ask me about a fighter. So ask me about a fighter, see if I got a story.
Anderson Silva.
Plenty of them, you know. I've always worked with Anderson. Every time he fought, I was always the one that he wanted me to wrap his hands, and you know, he called me Papi, you know. But there was a very, very special moment when he fought Chael Sonnen in Oakland, and actually for the first four rounds, Anderson Silva was getting whipped on big time, you know, by Chael. And my job as a cut man, or the job of a cut man, we don't go in unless there's some swelling or a cut or anything like that. But I knew he was taking so many shots that I was going to go do some preventive maintenance on him. So I told Ed Soros that was sitting next to me, I said, look, I'm going to go in from the first round out. So every round, first, second, third, fourth, all the way to the fifth round, I went in there and I worked on Anderson and just kept ice on his face and maintained the swelling. And, you know, towards, I think, the last 30 seconds or so, he ended up tapping out Chael Sonnen, which was fine. But what made this story even interesting is we did a show, our first show that was in Boston, is I come to the hotel, I take a cab from the airport to the hotel, and as I'm getting off at the hotel, Anderson Silva was outside with about 15, 20 fans, and, you know, he's taking pictures and signing autographs, and he sees me coming out of the cab, and he tells the people to hold on, and he comes straight up to me, and without saying a word or without anything, he gives me a big hug, and the only thing he said was thank you. But in doing that, I knew exactly what he meant, because I was right there covering his back in the time when he needed it most, and to me that was a very, very special moment. And, you know, when he broke his leg with Chris Weidman, that kind of really just kind of broke my heart, you know, and my alarm just went off. So yeah, that kind of broke my heart, you know, to see that, and because like an hour before I was in the dressing room wrapping his hands and, you know, just kind of bullshitting a little bit, and you know, I did get to do a little cameo movie with him. It was called Monday After. It's called something. I don't know what it's called. So anyway, but yeah, I got a great relationship with Anderson.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, speaking of movies, you're in quite a few. I don't know if
you are.
How many?
You
are in quite a few. My favorite was Here Comes the Boom, just because of what Kevin James said is what any one of us would be thinking if we were in that cage and you came over to be our cut man is, oh my God, I can't believe Stitch Duran is working on me. It was the perfect line for that movie.
Yeah. Well, you know, here we go. All right, you throw out Kevin James, and yeah, you know, I've been in like 6+ movies. The one I did with Edward J. Jomo and Anderson Silva was an independent film, so I guess I could throw that one in. But let me give you a little bit of the insight with the Kevin James Here Comes the Boom. I was doing a UFC show. I think it was at the MGM, Mandalay Bay, one or the other. I'm just kind of standing there, and this one guy says, hey, man, I'd like to take a picture of you. And I said, well, come on, let's take one together, not knowing who he was, right? Well, it was the producer of the show, like the director. And he said, hey, man, Kevin wants you to be in the movie. I said, man, I'm in, you know. So I get the script, and there's no lines in there for me, right? And, you know, when you have lines, you get residuals, and residuals usually pay a lot more than what you do when you go and you put time in for a movie, right? So, man, before I get to Boston, I'm thinking I got to say something. How do I say it? I got to say something. But show you how cool Kevin James is, when it was time for us to do that scene, he pulls me aside and says, Stitch, we got to have you say something, you know. To this part, because now I get residual. And so I'm playing kind of the dumb part, man, and, you know, kind of playing it off. I said, well, you know, here's what I tell fighters, welcome to the UFC. Oh, that's great, man. So that was my $1 million line, but what made it interesting is when he gets cut during the movie, they flag me in. Mark Giannagrati's the coach, and they bring me in. Boss Rutten and Henry Winkler, you know, they work in the corner. They bring me in, and I'm working on him, and that's when he says, oh, Stitch, you know, I can't believe you're working on me, you know. I'm a big fan, so-and-so and so. So, you know, so my end of the thing is I said, well, welcome to the UFC. Welcome to the UFC. And then I slapped him in the face and walked away, and everybody started laughing because nobody knew I was going to slap him. You know, and that was a one take shot, because if I would have told Kevin James I was going to slap him, you know, that's what I do with fighters. I give them that little love tap, you know. But with Kevin, it was a nice little solid slap, and they all started laughing, man. They said, oh, this is great. So that being said, I ended up still getting residuals from that movie. So it was a blast, man, just to work with Kevin James and Boss Rutten and, you know, all the guys, Mark Giannagrati and all the guys that were in the movie, it was fun.
Yeah, that was. But you're also in. I know you were in Creed. I think you're in Creed 2 as well, right?
Yeah, it didn't go from the beginning. The first one I did was with Woody Harrelson and Antonio Banderas. It was called Play It to the Bone. And
My favorite movie, by the way.
Yeah, the day that I left corporate America, I got a call to do an audition for that movie, and I know nothing about Hollywood. At that point, I knew nothing. So I'm leaving my job, and I'm working with my manager, and I'm thinking I'm going to work 8 to 5. He's going to sign me out. And 10 o'clock in the morning, I said, Augie, I got an offer to audition for a movie. He said, shit, I'm just here to sign you out. So he signed me out. I went and got my cornerman jacket, and I went to play the part of cornerman, and I got the job, and which was also because, like I said, I knew nothing. And when I met Woody Harrelson and Antonio Banderas, I wanted to be the cut man for Antonio Banderas because, of course, I was Latino, right? But the legendary cut man, my mentor, Chuck Bodak, and I were both the cut men. So he got in front of me, and he got Antonio Banderas, and I ended up with Woody Harrelson. But it turns out that, for me, I had the best spot because Woody gets cut, and the cornerman tells him, don't worry, you got the best cut man in the business. The promoter tells him, don't worry, you got the best cut man in the business. So I got all the work, And Chuck Bodak was, hey, man, what happened? That's well, it was just the luck of the draw. So I got to go to that premiere and spend some time with both these guys, and that was a pleasure, man. And the movie after that was Ocean's 11, where, we had a small part. I was working with Vladimir Klitschko, who I was his cut man. After that, I became his cut man for about 12 years. And in the movie, that's when the lights go out. That's when they start robbing the casino. The lights go out, and there's a big Las Vegas fight with Vladimir Klitschko and Lennox Lewis, and I'm in the corner with Vladimir. And so that was, but I got to meet, all Brad Pitt and Matt Damon and George Clooney and Julia Roberts, Andy Garcia. Got to meet all these superstars, right? And that was nice. And then I did Balboa. I did Rocky when Rocky fought his last fight. But I was in the opposite corner with Antonio Tarver. And then I did Here Comes the Boom. And then they called me to do Creed, and I just finished up a couple months ago with Creed 2. So, I've been blessed, man. I'm not an actor. I am an actor now because the production people paid for my SAG card. Because every time I would come in, I would come under what they call Taft-Hartley, where I came in as a specialist, which was me being a cut man. But I guess after the 6th movie, Hollywood says, nah. He ain't no cut man. He's an actor now. So it was like $3,500. It was like $3,500 at the production paid for me to become an actor. So I'm an official SAG member now.
That's good. I hear there's like benefits and stuff to it. So Joey Diaz always talks about his SAG card and I never knew like how pretty in depth it goes. So I'm happy to hear that. That's pretty.
Yeah. I have their insurance and and everything, but it just. It's a great opportunity, man. So I've been real blessed.
Sweet. But we're just switching gears real quick, Stitch. I always wondered, with the hand wrapping and just the pre-fight rituals that I've seen. I know that they can get kind of superstitious. Now I'm pretty positive you've seen your fair share of wild stuff. You don't have to name names if you don't want to. That's fine. But what's the oddest, more superstitious fighter you think you've been around in terms of, getting himself into the zone, or some weird stuff you've seen somebody preparing themselves while you're doing their hands?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. And I guess, let me start answering it this way: is I've had guys, because I understand, as Frank Mir says. He says, when I see Stitch walking into the dressing room, my stomach just drops because I know it's time to fight. So in reality, I am the first guy that when I start getting these guys ready to start wrapping their hands, that is their first step going into battle. So there's no turning back. But I've had guys that literally cried as I'm wrapping their hands, I've had guys that, want to do the left before the right hand and just, small little things. But I understand that, that's a very serious point for them. And one of my specialties outside of wrapping hands and working cuts is the psychological aspect of what I give these fighters. and I reassure him that I'm gonna take care of you like you're my son, and that seems to go a long ways. And I remember Lyoto Machida when he fought Rashad Evans and won the world title. If you remember, Lyoto's father is a very traditional Japanese warrior. He would wear the kimonos and all that and sit at ringside. And I go in the dressing room to congratulate Lyoto because Lyoto was another one of my favorite fighters that they always wanted me to wrap his hands. So I went in there to congratulate Lyoto, and in front of his father, he said, "Stitch, in the ring, you are my father." And those are very special moments. Yeah. So
That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, I got a shitload of those. I got tons of those.
Who was your favorite to work with?
Man, there's been so many, but I think in the MMA industry, Josh Barnett, when he left the UFC, started working in Pride, he brought me on to be his cutman. He would literally pay for my airfare, to go to Japan, and he would pay me good money. And when I'd get there for the Pride fights, everybody would want me to wrap their hands, right? And he says, no, I'm paying to bring Stitch over here. If you want him to wrap your hands, it's going to cost you $500, right? And so he was kind of like my agent. He was kind of like my agent to be. Man, I'd come back with $2,000, $3,000 with just free money, and they would take me 15 minutes to wrap everybody, guys' hands. And I mean, Bob Sapp, and I mean, you name them, a lot of the top fighters, and even like Pedro Emelianenko when he had just come back from like he had broke his hand the fight before, and the promoter for Pride asked me if I could wrap Fedor's hands, and at that time he was the man, the dog, and man, I didn't ask him, I didn't negotiate no money, nothing like that. I was just glad to go in the dressing room and start wrapping his hands. So I started wrapping Fedor's hands, and when I wrap fighters' hands, I like to keep them relaxed. I'll talk to them and all that. But Fedor didn't say nothing to me. He just oh, yes, oh, da, yeah. So I finished wrapping both hands, and I said, okay, how do they feel? And as you look at your hands, you open, you close, you open, you close. He's looking at it, and he opens and closes it 2 or 3 times, and he looks at me and says, super. Man, that's all he said, brother. I was so happy. I walked out. I don't think my feet were even touching the ground. And
man.
Yeah, and after the fight, Josh and I are walking back to the bus down the hallway, and he had won, so he invited us into his dressing room, and we had shots of vodka with Fedor Emelianenko, and so I have a great relationship with Fedor. And matter of fact, the last time he fought at the Bellator, I drive in, I get into the lobby. I just came in, and he's sitting there with his team and all that, and he gets up and comes to me. Fedor comes to me, right? And he gives me a hug. He says, Stitch, he goes, I got you a sweatsuit, And I said, no, are you kidding me? So the guy went up, got the sweatsuit. Man, it's a Fedor Emelianenko team outfit, right? But he had my name in the front, and he had my name in the back, And,
wow.
To me, then what makes those moments special, Tommy, is that, it's not something that he thought of right when he saw me. He thought of that when he was in Russia, and making outfits for his team that he included me as part of his team. And I thought, to me, that was a very honorable thing to receive. So how many guys get sweats from Fedor with your name on them, So
I think I'd be able to die happy at that moment because Fedor is one of my all-time favorite fighters. You got Fedor and Boss Rutten right up there.
Boss! I just did a show with Boss, Professional Fight League Saturday. He and Randy Couture, and Boss and I go a long ways. When he was commentating for Pride, and him and Mauro Ronaldo, and so we always used to hang out over there. And but Boss sent me all his videos, all his tapes of his fights, and I tell you what, man, I think he was probably, as you look at the whole history of combat sports, he would probably be the least guy I would want to get into a cage or a ring with, because everything that Boss hit you with hurt. And I just saw him devastate some of these fighters, and but he's super good guy, man.
I always remember his last fight with Warpath, when he hit Warpath in the face and then apologized for hitting him so hard.
Yeah. Well, Boss would use the open hand, right? And, man, getting slapped one way across is one thing, but getting hit with an open hand coming right at your nose is a different pain. And Boss would create pain.
Yeah, he seemed like he was good at that. He seemed like he was very good at that, especially his bouncing videos. So I still like watching those on YouTube.
Okay, well, we're talking behind the scenes stuff, right? So he's telling me and Here Comes the Boom, when he's in the gym and he's doing these box aerobics with the women and all that, and
yes.
He's doing elbow, knee, this, that. Well, he says he got that idea. This guy, he said, I was at a bar, and this guy didn't know who I was, and he's over there telling me he's a fighter, and he's showing me knee, elbow, punch, that type of stuff. He goes, and I thought it was so hilarious that I did that in the movie. And if you look at the movie now, when you see him working out with these aerobic people, that what he demonstrated there was based on a fact that this guy told him, not knowing that he was Boss Rutan, the baddest man on the planet. That was so funny.
How do you not know Boss Rutan if you're telling this guy that you're a fighter? You don't know who Boss Rutan is. He was probably one of the most recognizable people.
Yeah, that's because you're not a fighter. He was trying to convince somebody on a sport that this guy mastered, and this guy did. I mean, if you don't know who Boss Rutan is, I'm sure he felt like an idiot when somebody told him, "Man, that's Boss Rutan."
So, Stitch, you've been in this game a very long time. What is the difference between the sport and the fighters now from the very beginning of, like, the inception of when MMA was starting to get big?
That's a good question, man. When I started with the UFC, I think it was UFC 32, 33. The first guys I rapped were Jens Pulver and Dave Monet, part of the Militich team, right? But show you how green I was in this game of mixed martial arts. I didn't know who Pat Militich was. I didn't know who Robbie Lawler was. I didn't know who Matt Hughes. I didn't know who Jens Pulver was. I didn't know who Dave Monet was. But evidently they were one of the top MMA schools worldwide, right? And so these are the first guys that I got to know. And I was so green that I went to another show and Ken Shamrock was there. And I'm looking at him. I said, you know what? You look familiar. And everybody starts laughing, and realizing that's Ken Shamrock, right? And I didn't know that. So, but the game has changed. The thing I like about the MMA industry opposed to the boxing industry is these guys in the MMA industry really kind of go beyond what boxers do, spending time with fans, signing autographs, taking pictures, talking to the fans. A lot of the Randy Coutures, the top names, these guys will stop and give you a moment of their time, which I think is great. I remember the days when Oscar De La Hoya, Mike Tyson, and all these guys would fight. You would have an entourage that would take you to the arena or the weigh-ins or wherever, and then right back, and they would never stop and take pictures with the fans and all that. But MMA, they're very giving, and that's I respect them for that, and I try to model myself after what these guys are doing also.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because, we've done this show a little over a year now, and some of the guests that we've had on, we've actually, become kind of friendly with. Like, I know you remember Eddie Struck Gordon.
Sure.
He's always taking pictures, and he's always training in our Pride Rules T-shirt. And he's always making sure that he tags us on social media for it. We'll text back and forth every once in a while. So it's definitely it's a nice feeling to see that most of these guys are so humble and they don't care about talking to a fan. It's pretty cool because you're not going to get that, like you said, with a boxer or any other kind of professional athlete.
Yeah, I agree 100%, and it just fills my heart. people come up and say, "Hey, man, Stitch, I hate to bother you, man. Can we take a picture?" I said, "Man, it's the way I look at it. It's when people don't ask you to take a picture that you ought to be concerned, right?" So I always have time. I always have time for somebody to take a picture with, or just sit there and, at the airport, I just sit there and talk to guys because that's what I enjoy doing, And I don't know if you remember Randall Cunningham. He was a quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Absolutely.
And
yeah,
and he lives here in Vegas, and he's a pastor, right? But years and years and years. I mean, I've been in Las Vegas 23 years, Tommy, and before I moved here, we did a show here in Las Vegas, and after that, we went to an active fight party, and it was me and my three brothers, and we're talking to Randall Cunningham, and I'll never forget, one of Don King's guys comes up to Randall and says, "Hey, Randall, I need to talk to you." He looked at him and says, "Hold on." He said, "Let me finish talking to these guys." And I thought, man, that was the classiest thing that I'd ever seen in my life, because we were nobody, right? But he had enough respect for us to finish our conversation, and like I say, he's a pastor here in Las Vegas, and I haven't met him, but I know when I do meet him, I'm going to relay that story to him that just reinforced my thinking of how to handle people and not only fans, but just people in general. And I thought that was very, very classic.
Oh, that's amazing. I didn't know that Randall Cunningham was a pastor now.
Yeah, sure.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So, Stitch, I got to ask you, how much longer do you see yourself being a cut man?
Oh, man, I haven't even thought about it. I'm 66 years old, and, I look at the legendary cut men, the Chuck Bodaks, the Ace Moradas, the Eddie Alianos, the Joe Souzas, Rafael Garcia, all these guys that were legendary cut men, they all kind of left the game in their 80s, and like I say, I'm 66 years old. I don't know if I'll be doing that long, but I guess the best way to answer that is, once my mechanics, once I start slowing down on the mechanics and things just, I'm not as smooth as I am now, then it's maybe time to start looking at retirement. But not only that, I've had a great career. I've been doing this over 30 years, and my wife and my family have been supporting me 150%. And it'd be nice to retire early and just my wife and I say bye to the kids, and we'll see you guys in about a year because we're going to go on a world tour. So I got to get back. I got to get back to my wife. So I don't know. I'm not ready yet by any means. But I don't know what the future holds, and reality would be nice to go out there and enjoy the fruits of my labor.
Well, that sounds good. I've got one last question for you, but before I give the floor to my two co-hosts here, the BJ Penn, oh my God, Joe Daddy fight.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the nastiest cuts I've ever seen in my life. I don't remember exactly. Were you in BJ's corner, or were you in Joe Stevenson's corner for that?
Yeah, if I remember, that was at the O2 Arena in London. I was in BJ's corner, right? But what yeah, it was poor Joe Daddy, man. You could just see that cut being created. But after the fight, I'm talking to his coach, and he said, Joe Daddy's in the dressing room, and he says, where was Stitch at? Where was Stitch at? It's just that I was in BJ's corner, so that was kind of nice that, that he wanted to know where I was at, because I should have been in his corner, but, just by the luck of the draw, I was with BJ's corner.
Now, you don't do any of the stitching, right? Like backstage or anything like that?
No, man. I do that to the doctors, and people think I do that, but that's a no. Not my specialty. My specialty is wrapping a good hand so they don't break them, and stopping cuts within 50 seconds.
What is that stuff that's on the those giant Q-tips that you shove right in the cut as they're sitting in the corner?
Yeah, those are swabs that we create, but we load them up. We soak them with adrenaline chloride 1000, epinephrine, and it's a medication that is a vessel constrictor. So you put the adrenaline in the cut, And in theory, what it does is it just closes up the blood vessels, kind of like when you fold the water hose, so it won't leak anymore. It's
I
that
got
same
you.
principle.
Okay.
Yeah, it's that same principle.
No
Very,
shit.
very basic foundation, and it's not what you use; it's how you use it. I mean, it's important what you use, but on how you use it and how you maintain cuts.
The only thing I could think of is that's got to burn so bad when you're just jamming that thing right in the cut.
Nah, not at all. Hey man, these guys are getting they're getting punched and all that, but you all definitely have to be extremely careful with these guys because you don't want to poke them in the eye, you don't want that adrenaline to get into the eyes, and you want to make them feel as comfortable. But their adrenaline is so pumped up, man, they don't feel no pain.
That's I guess I'm just a wuss.
yeah. Oh yeah, you're one of those guys, huh?
Well, it's funny. Like I was in a really bad accident when I was 18, and I had a compound fracture, kind of like Anderson Silva had with Chris Weidman, but with a car. And in the hospital, I was sitting there playing with my muscle as it was sticking out of my leg before they did a skin graft, and that didn't bother me at all. But when I'm watching you stick that swab right in the cut, I'm like, that's just got to sting.
Yeah, it's that don't hurt. These guys, you gotta take them out of that mode, and that's where a good cut man comes in handy. That's a good point that you're bringing up because a good cut man will curtail that anxiety that a fighter comes in with. They're freaking out. So psychologically, you have to let them know that that's not a problem. And I'm here to make sure just you're taken care of, and I'll say I want to make sure you stay as handsome walking in or leaving the ring as you did when you walked in. So little moments like that go a long way for these fighters. And even though they're modern day gladiators, deep inside they just need somebody to be there to cover their back.
Well, Stitch, Roberto just sent me a question for you. Roberto wants to know, who is your top female cut woman?
Well, there's some good ones out there. Sheena Starr is a great. Emery Morgan does a great job. There's those are probably the top two cut women out there in the industry right now. I know Emery. We were in Athens, Greece together, and I got her a chance to see her wrap some hands, and I've worked with Sheena Starr in the bare knuckle fights. Plus, she worked with Burt Watson, and I think in one night she wrapped like 10 fighters' hands.
Sheena Starr's a beast. Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
I know her. Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah, so those two are the top of the line because they stay in the industry, and that's the thing about our job is, you got to go out there and work, and the only way for you to be good is to continuously do it. But working with Sheena, and I've also worked with Tammy in the Invicta fights, and both of them are top quality cut women for sure.
Oh, man. Well, Stitch, why don't you give us one more? We're going to let you pick this. One more good story before we begin to wrap up here with you tonight.
One of my favorites, man, is Anderson Silva when he fought Chuck Liddell. And I'll never forget that fight. It was my birthday, December the 29th. But, Anderson would train here in Las Vegas, and I've known Anderson. I mean, he gave me him and Shogun and Ninja gave me the nickname Santana when we were in Japan, right? So I'm Santana, right? And, so I've always had a great relationship with Vanderlei, right? So about a week before the fight, I had told him, I said, Vanderlei, I'm going to give you some good karma, man. It's going to be my birthday, man, and, I'm going to give you some good karma. And we left it at that. So I just happened to be working in Chuck's corner. Leon Paz was working with Vanderlei Silva, and it's a battle, brother. I mean, I'm sitting there cage side. I can hear every punch that these guys are throwing, and they're just connecting with bombs, right? And Chuck, I took the cut, and I work on him. The bell rings at the end of the fight, and I clean up Chuck, and I go up to see how Vanderlei's doing as a friend, right? And then just kind of cover him, make sure he's okay, and So I said, man, like, how you doing? He goes, no, he looks like a skeletal, man. His face is swollen and all that. He said, no, I'm okay. And then he looks at me and says, happy birthday, Stitch. And I'm thinking, wow, what a crazy moment, because this guy was just one of the toughest fights of his career, and he had enough dignity to wish me a happy birthday after such a hard fight, man. And to me, that was like a real special moment for me.
That's amazing that you have those relationships with those guys. That's so awesome. That's got, I mean, I know it's got to make you feel good that, you know, just like you said, these guys, he's in the fight of his life, and just thinks to wish you a happy birthday. That just, it's a testament to the person that you are, man. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a mind blower, man. You know, I go through these type of phases all the time, and you know, it's incredible, you know. And when you think that you've heard something, you get something else, you know, like Fedor giving me the sweats. You know, that was very it's one of my special moments, you know. And things just happen, you know, and I appreciate every moment.
Well, honestly, we appreciate you for everything that you've done for this sport for the past 30 years that you said. I mean, we love this sport more than anything. And, you know, for somebody who's not a fighter, not a trainer, to be in the game as long as you have been and the fame that you have, it's very well deserved for you. We're huge fans of yours. We really want to thank you for being part of this big show for us tonight. Where's the next place we get to see Stitch Duran in action?
All right. Well, I'm doing. There's a new organization in town called FFC. Orsat Zovko is the owner of the company. He's from Croatia. As a matter of fact, he managed Pro Cup coming up through his early career, but he has a background in film and producing, and you know, he's produced like 500 programs. But he's also a top promoter in Croatia. Well, he just signed a 3-year deal with Caesars Entertainment here in Las Vegas, which isn't an easy thing to do. And so they gave him a venue at the Rio, and it's going to be called the Fight Dome. They're changing it into the Fight Dome. But it's going to be fights every week. So 1 week will be boxing, another week will be kickboxing, another week will be MMA, and then the fourth week will be all disciplines together under one umbrella, and they call it the Night of Champions. And CBS Sports is going to be handling them. That's my venture now. I'm working with them. I'll be the director of regulatory affairs. So I don't have to
nice.
Yes, I don't have to be doing as much traveling. You know, I'll still be working as a cut man, but I'll be working close with the fighters and the commission, and they want me to be the face of the company. So, you know, I'll be doing a lot of interviews, whether they're documentaries or long-term series or something like that, or educational videos, and because that's what they do. They film for content. There's Latin stations at Azteca, and but he also has his own Fight World channel. And so looks like I'm going to be locked in with these guys for a while. Our first show is actually this coming Friday. So they're going to have one boxing, 2 kickboxing, and then 2 MMA shows. And then there'll be telecast live on CBS. That's where I'm at, man. And the only thing working with these guys is I can't do any other MMA events. You know, so I sat down with Scott Coker and I explained to him, and obviously he sent me his best wishes, and same thing with Ray Simple and Carlos Silva from the Professional Fight League, and they understand. You know, we get these type of opportunities. You know, Big John McCarthy's doing commentating for Bellator. Rich Franklin is the president of One Championship. You know, and so Boss Rutan, you know, commentating, Randy Couture commentating. So these guys have gone beyond what they've normally done. Though I'll still be the cut man, I'll be able to use some of my other experiences working in corporate America. That I'll be able to apply to FFC. So that's my next project, man. Every week after that.
All right, guys. Anybody have anything else for Stitch before we let him go?
Just wishing you well on that new venture.
Yeah. I just want to say, you know, good luck on the new ventures, and thank you for the excellent work you put in over the years, keeping some of our favorites and even the not-so-favorites in the game and able to go out there and do what they do for all of us.
Well, I appreciate it, man. And, one of my sponsors used to be One More Round, and I thought that was so ideal because Mark Zucker, that owned One More Round, got that from the Balboa movie where Rocky is telling his son, "Oh, I got to go one more round," and but people to this day always yell at me, "One more round, Stitch, one more round," but that's what I do. I give these fighters every opportunity to win a fight, and I give them that one more round, and I've made a lot of money for a lot of fighters, and I think the ones that win, the ones that lose, I think they just feel good that I was there covering their back, and to me, it's just life doesn't get much better than that. But I appreciate you guys having me on. Congratulations on your 100th show. Let me just finish up by saying that Creed 2 comes out Thanksgiving Day, which is a big, big day for Hollywood. It's right before they finish, getting ready for the Academy Awards. So I would expect, Michael B. Jordan, Sylvester Stallone, definitely, Ivan Drago and Ivan Drago's son to be, recognized for the fine work that they did. So check out Creed 2.
All right, Stitch, thank you so much for being on here tonight. We got to do this again, man. We got to do this again.
Oh, no problem.
Sure.
I only gave you about 1% of my stories, brother.
Nice.
That's nice.
and they keep coming. Just when I think I've seen it all, I get more. But I got tons, of stories, and I've just been blessed.
Well, we just want to thank you again for being part of the show. We're definitely going to have you on again, Stitch. So everybody, make sure you get out to see Creed 2 on Thanksgiving. You're going to see our man Stitch in there. Stitch, once again, thank you so much, and we can't wait to see you work some more. Have a good night.
All right, man. I appreciate it.
Have a good one.
Oh, that was so exciting, guys. That was so exciting.
Yeah,
it's
I'm still
amazing
in
that we
shock.
only got. It's amazing that we only got 1% of the stories. I mean, after 30 years of this man being in the business, working on some of the guys that he's worked on, I just couldn't come up with any names off the top of my head because I still couldn't believe we were talking to the legendary Stitch on this show.
It's
right.
Yeah,
Fucking crazy.
It's incredible.
Thanks for joining us. It's been a battle with this blog talk. I can't wait till we're off this goddamn format. So,
it's tough.
Yeah. So now we could talk about the last fight. We began talking about it before we had Mr. Duran on. So let's open up with this. I don't understand where Connor's getting patted on the back for
Jesus Christ.
what he did on the ground.
Here we go.
Listen.
Okay.
Don't cap off my horribly shitty day with your nonsense. I've seen the dick riders out there and the Connor nut huggers, and I can understand your frustration. I just want you to be able to admit that your hate makes you more than a little bit biased.
But what did
That's
he do
all.
on the ground? He laid there. He laid there.
Listen. To the untrained or unskilled eye, that's all he did.
Oh,
But
boy.
fucking Kavanaugh said it. He stayed on the bottom and stayed relaxed. That's why Khabib wasn't peppering his face like he did to Edson.
Just like Gordon said, like he only moved when he had to, tried to get the jerks in there, tried to kick and get out from under him. He didn't expend any extra energy. But continuing with the honesty, I'm not going to pretend like the problem Gordon pointed out, shout out Gordon Ryan, but the problem he pointed out, he has zero hand fighting skills. Zero. It's glaring. It's crazy that that's a thing, that he could be as good standing up and pretty good on the ground, but zero. Dude, it doesn't matter how good you are on the ground. If you have zero hand fighting skills, you might as well just bend over, pull your trunks down, and let the other guy aim for penetration.
Oh,
Nothing
wow.
else matters. Everything
think,
on the ground starts hand fighting.
Well, the other thing I think that was kind of killing him was what Khabib was doing with his legs, where he was crossing his legs, which everybody in jiu-jitsu knows you never cross your legs and somebody can wrap them, but Khabib was just doing it for him. He couldn't move anywhere. That's what I mean. Like, Khabib's top game is so damn good, I don't know who could beat him. And that night kind of proved it. Everybody said the only person who could come close to beating him was Conor. They thought it was going to be Edson, but everybody said Edson's basically, he kicks, he doesn't strike, so he doesn't punch. So it wasn't as far out of the realm of possibility for Khabib to do what he did to him, even though everybody says Edson's very hard to take down. Conor had that factor of, as Khabib's shooting in, he could have got him with the left hand. But I don't know if Khabib's shot is just too good, or Conor was just so worried about that shot, he didn't want to throw that haymaker left hand. It was crazy.
He took again, I'm a fan, but he took a beating. The whole idea apparently sounds like, from listening to Kavanaugh, was they knew Khabib was going to get him down in the first. So the idea was, let's not kill ourselves. Like, they didn't want the rounds to be as gap like when it was like 10-8 and then that second was like 10-7. That was a little bit worse than they wanted it to be, but they knew it was going that way. It's the Eagle. You can't really stop that shit. Their whole idea was, let's not get annihilated, let's not overexert ourselves, and then, leading into that third and fourth, let's try and, start putting some shit in together. But even Kavanaugh said it himself, the same thing I said when I saw it. That right hand was beautiful. It was crazy. Like, technically speaking, that's not the way you would want to throw it, but holy shit, that landed so good. And was a thing they didn't see coming. You see, he got back up, like, Khabib went and threw a knee. He missed, kind of threw a knee, it made it exciting. Like, it was fun. I wasn't one of these people that was like, oh, no, that shit was dope. Like, that fight, I love that fight. Up and down. It's not like the outcome you want to see, room for, but holy shit, that fight was dope. I don't know that a change in the game plan would allow for a different outcome at all, because that guy's a monster. But to say that he did nothing, I could see where it might look like that, but you got to take into account some of the best in the world saying the opposite.
Well, what I was meaning by nothing is he wasn't forcing himself to try and get up like Edson was doing, which probably saved Conor's face a hell of a lot more bashing than it had taken, because that's what was killing Edson. He was trying to get up off that fence, and the second he braced his arms down, Khabib just started laying down punches. So it's like, look, it was. I hate when everybody's like, "Oh, congratulations, you guys picked the favorite to win." He's the favorite for a reason.
And besides that, you pick whoever the fuck you're going for. You pick to be you're a fan. So what? You made a pick. He won. You can't fucking shit talk somebody for picking a guy they're a fan of and that guy winning. What kind of bullshit is that?
Yeah, it's just absolute craziness. And there's a lot of controversy with the ending. Not the brawl, where they're saying, oh, he just gave up. He didn't want to be uncomfortable. And I'm talking about, this is coming from fighters that, Kareem, you and I know, we've been in a seminar with, who,
listen.
I don't think he tapped due to the discomfort. I just think he just didn't have anything left in him.
Look, let me tell you something. I've been gooned like that by your favorite Madama guy in mine. Like, Shammy's gooned me like that more than once.
Oh, yeah.
Any person who says, oh, man, you didn't try, first of all, when they say, oh, he didn't even try to pry the hands away.
Oh,
you're right.
Yeah, stop
he
that.
didn't try and pry the hands away. As pointed out by Gordon, he has zero hand fight. Like, you see him reach up, like he went to reach for a hand, and Khabib was just like, no, we're not having none of that. And he fucking cranked his shit up. And Conor went to tap for a second, paused, and then was like, nope, tap out. That's it. That shit presses your jaw back into your mouth, pushes your teeth in, and cranks your fucking neck and face. Like,
He would have broken his jaw. I think he would have kept till
For
he broke
sure,
it. He wouldn't have
100%.
cared. He would not have cared. Stop
I
it,
was,
man.
I was
now.
just wondering, maybe just Connor knew he didn't have anything left. Because it wasn't.
No,
the round was kind of close to over.
I've gotten my shit cranked even when I was biting on a mouth guard and the fucking gi top.
Oh, it's.
I cheated and I bit the gi top. You know the fucking lapel, just to give me something else on top. And I was like, this will help me. Yeah, fuck you. Oh my Christ, it's the worst feeling in the world because you feel like you might die. Like a choke is even better. Like it's nicer.
This is what I'm saying.
Is. Yo.
There are some good guys out there who are saying he just gave up. But the problem is, I believe some of these guys are so goddamn good, I don't think they can remember the last time they've been gooned.
And let's not gloss over the fact that Khabib had that kind of squeeze that late in the fight. Let's not gloss over that. So that's pretty damn amazing.
Super props off to him, but it's one of them double-edged swords things. The same way Connor's like, I'm not gonna move until like I have to, and it just like you said, it saved his face because he's not like pulling the head out. He's not putting himself in a position where he could really just like bash the shit out of him. But at the same time, if he can't bash the shit out of you, he's not throwing them ground and pound bombs that might have tired his arms out some. That dude, he fought it smart too. He didn't try and force the ground and pound. He didn't try and like force Conor to, cough something up. He fucking controlled the shit out of him. And, Conor made some like basic mistakes that need to be tightened up at the ground. Like when his arm was up and over behind him, he was like instinct made him throw his arm down to try and stand himself up. Dumbest fucking thing you could do with a guy like that riding you on side mount. Because your neck's there. And then by the time he realizes it, now you got a fucking bear on your back, and you can't get him off. But again, it all circles back, to hand fighting skills. If he had even a few, that's not to say he would not have finished the exact same submission, but if he had a little bit of hand fighting skills, I think we would have seen, saw him attempt something, but that shit hurts. You have zero hand fighting skills. It's already locked. There's nothing
when
to
I knew,
do.
You know when I knew, guys, and I mean, we could all say this like at the beginning of the, right? Like, okay, this is how we thought it was gonna go, right? We're all avid grapplers. We love the game. First round, first takedown, he actually fought it off, right? But he went to go do some, like, I'm going to try to counter ankle pick you, hit like a weird eloquent switch out the side.
Yeah.
And it did, and the way he looked when he was doing it is the way I probably look when I'm practicing it. I'm not even going to rag on anybody else, you know what I'm saying? It's not my forte, right? So it looked like he was drilling it right after somebody had taught it to him 2 seconds ago. It was like, okay, guys, jiu-jitsu class today, we're going to try takedowns, right? And then everybody gets up in a non-takedown school and is like, fuck. And then, they try this, and it's nice. He just looks so herky-jerky with it, and he fought that off. He got up because he was still fresh. He's a A-caliber athlete. All accolades to him. The second he tried that weird bullshit, and you could tell that it wasn't muscle memory, it wasn't even remotely like well-versed or well-practiced. It was like, the way that, Andre Galvao says, if you think, you're too late. Yeah. Right? He was thinking about, this is the technical thing that I got to do to get out of this position, which shows that they've tried to practice it, right? But you cannot teach that sort of reaction time, instinctual grappling in any amount of time. I don't care if they shore up his grappling, guys. I think you guys will agree with me here. He is never going to get the grappling sufficient to the point to out-grapple a Khabib. Ever.
And that's the other thing. That's the other thing right there.
That's true.
Right there. That's what you said. And Kavanaugh said it best. How do you emulate in a fight camp a guy like Khabib?
Fucking time machine. You go back in time and Or you get like a Dragon Ball Z chamber and you get 10 years of training in, and you come out dumb old, and everybody's like, wait a second.
But
you know?
I gotta say,
but the other side of the coin to that, how do you emulate someone who's got Conor's accuracy? I don't think that there's too many fighters that are as accurate as him. So
sure.
These training camps had to be kind of weird. You know what I mean? Like, you could bring in a whole bunch of guys. It's never.
It's a march there. You can have a far better time, like not game planning for a guy that accuracy when you have the fucking Smash Club.
And listen,
right, Kareem?
The greatest thing I saw, without like giving him props, I don't know if you guys mentioned or even saw it, was Nick Diaz's assessment of what he saw. And to him, he was like, that was not 100% Conor McGregor. Not like physically he wasn't 100%. He was like, I don't know what the fuck he was thinking or what he was doing, but he like that wasn't him. The rest of what he said was completely biased because, as we know, he don't like that whole fucking what he considers lay and pray type style of fighting that he says is cheating, pretty much, or just like a cheap way of fighting. But I don't know. Like, I don't think Conor's got to learn to out-grapple him. That, I will say, at this stage in the game is impossible. What he needs to do is, like what Gordon Ryan said, man, you need to shore up your basics. Like, and again, this is not like a fan saying, oh, if Conor had his basics, you know, he could have won. No, man, what I'm saying is maybe you get a difference, like a situational difference in a couple of spots, if not a different outcome. You know what I'm saying? Like, he had like that Gable grip fucking crank on him. Hey, man, hand fighting at that point is not going to get that shit off, but it takes some of the stank off of that twist. And maybe then Khabib goes, you know what, let me not burn my arms out. This is the end of the fourth round. Let me drag this fucker into the fifth and, you know, finish him off. But at least you get out of the one situation. We're never going to know what this dude could do on the ground in self-defense, not to be better than Khabib or Tony or any of these guys that are fucking aces in grappling on the ground, because he's got holes, like glaring holes in his basics. I'm just saying, like, I'm only a proponent of you gotta be fair on both sides. I have a whole newfound level of respect for Khabib because he stepped into the pocket a couple of times and fucking put his whole legacy at risk. And that's ballsy as fuck. I don't know too many other dudes that would have been.
Like, it's like he had no respect for Conor striking after a while, which is
like,
very strange.
I think he picked up on not like a lack of respect for it, because you could see like around when, you know, he got in there and, you know, he's popping Conor with the jab. Conor wasn't respecting his jab, like didn't have his hands up, and they're like popping each other a little bit back and forth. I think he picked up on the same thing I was saying to some people I saw at the bar. You know, your fucking barfly idiots talking that, oh man, I took like 2 classes, you know, a few months ago and never really trained beyond that. I was like, no, man, Conor's in trouble because Khabib has noticed he's not firing his left. It's the one thing, like him and his team is like, you know, we're not standing with him because of that. If you're in a fight with somebody that's got like a fucking atomic bomb in their left hand, and you notice, man, this motherfucker's not throwing it, and you're not a pussy, that makes you a little more willing to step into the pocket and train. You see, he kind of like tested it out. And like, look at his reaction when he hit him with that right. He was leaning back, and he saw him go down, and he fucking bum rushed him. And then from there, he kept stepping into the pocket. It's like, I knocked you down, and you're not throwing that left like you normally do. The fuck do I have to be worried about? The left is not. It's apparently not on the table as often as we've seen him. Like they've seen him throw in his fights. Man, like, look. I'm not a crazy striker like that, but if I'm fighting him and I'm used to seeing him throw that left and, like, sting with it every couple of seconds till he knocks you out, if I don't see that left coming, I'll step in the pocket and throw at you, especially after I knock you down and you didn't knock me down.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking maybe Conor didn't want to go crazy and throw that haymaker left because all Khabib has to do is duck under, and he's just going to put you on your back. Like it could be. He's an enigma. Before Kareem, you joined the show. Since this is our 100th, our very first episode, when we had Carl, was our host at the time, and he was asking Omar and I who we thought the best 155-pounder was, and the both of us said Khabib. And when he asked me why I thought that, I said, because the guy is an enigma. You think he's got a hole in his game. You see it. You go to expose it when you fight him, and he finds a way to just get you on the ground. And we know he's going to keep you there. And how much punishment are you able to take while you're down there? Nobody's been able to, like Omar says, crack the Da Vinci Code, right, Omar?
Yeah, it's one of those things where, and it's such a, if you were building a fighter in the UFC game, this is always the type of fighter that I build because it's easy to just, it's low risk, high reward. And at least in the video game, you can, end up TKOing everybody. So it's not like you're getting accused of laying and praying, but you can take people down, not take a lot of damage, and fuck people up. And you can do that for a long, long time. Right now, Khabib's biggest enemies are like, training camp injuries, I feel. And like potentially what his family wants him to do with his career. But aside from that, I don't see anybody beating him in the 155-pound division, and I think he could even make a run at 170. Who out there, aside from, not even, because, I was going to say it's intriguing with a Tony Ferguson because of the finishing jiu-jitsu that he has. But even then, man, I don't know. I don't see it. I see it going differently, but not ending differently with a Tony. So
it's the same shit I said. The problem is you got Khabib sitting at the top, Conor, Tony, and then right now, who else? Who else is out there? Who else is out there positioned where
Poirier?
They could get a shot?
Dustin Poirier?
Poirier
Maybe.
pulled out of the Diaz fight.
He's got nothing for any one of those three. Nothing.
It's just
I like him and all, but he's got nothing for any of those three, and that's the problem. You see, kind of scratched at the surface of something. He don't got the skills to put it together. Point blank, he don't got the skills to really put it together. It would involve avoiding some things a little longer and maybe etching Khabib into a small mistake and exploiting it. Don't see it happening. That's a problem there. Tony's a fucking weird monster. Only difference is it's Tony's game wherever the fight goes. But that kind of thinking against Khabib is going to get you put on your back, and it's going to get you raped.
Yeah.
Point blank and simple. And that's going to be his problem fighting him. He's too willing because he's so good on the ground. He doesn't have the same worry oh, man, this guy takes me down. Because, yes, his jiu-jitsu light years ahead of Khabib's. But his ability to hold people and fucking fish rape them is just impressive. What other way do you say it? And then, that's kind of, I feel right now, for the time being, that's a deadlocked triangle. Because Conor could end up on the ground with Tony if they fight, and he doesn't have the same pressure to keep you there and do what Khabib does. So it's easier for Conor to get back up. Conor could go down bad, wrong angle. You've seen it happen before, and you're in a position to get subbed. And I don't see too many people get out of subs that Tony locks on. It's fucked up. It's a fucked up thing to say, but can you name somebody that honestly got is in a position to fight one of those three? Not some of the guys that got to work their way up, because if you start counting those guys, they're not going to let them do it.
That's it. They're not going to let him do it, but
not,
that's the only dude on planet Earth right now.
Yeah.
Or maybe
they're not
Ben
going to let
Askren.
him do it because
And they're not going to, yeah.
If Habib comes up to 170, then his problem is, as big as he is, you know, like normally where he's probably more comfortable walking around where he cuts down from, it's not going to be bigger than George.
No. Not at all.
And George's wrestling is, like, specifically geared for MMA and, like, neutralizing wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Habib don't want that. He don't want that smoke. He don't want to do that to himself. He would have a better chance with Askren, who's got, like, amazing fucking wrestling. And it's just, I think, like, he's a bigger, less intimidating version of Habib. Because, like, he pretty much does the same thing, but, you know, guys don't have that overwhelming feeling of hopelessness when he gets them down. Like, motherfuckers are scrambling, and, you know, Ben's got no problem with, oh, you're getting back up? Yeah, let me put you back down.
That's because he doesn't beat your ass and, like, tell you to just give up. He just smashes your face in, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm saying there's so many options. And one problem, again, I don't know if you guys heard, but Habib's father has a little issue with him and his antics after the fight.
Oh, yeah.
That guy's not happy, and in his words, he's going to punish him worse than the UFC could ever do.
Yeah.
Now, given Habib's, like, devout religious beliefs and respect for his father, who knows what the fuck's going to happen behind that.
His father could say you're not fighting for 2 years, and he would obey his father. Like, I know where you're getting at. Right?
In any other situation, it'd be some outside fight, don't matter, not important bullshit. But when it comes to the Eagle, and, like, he lives at home with his, like, that's the belief. He lives at home with his wife and kids and his parents.
Yep.
His father says something, and that's law. That's it.
Yep.
And I totally understand his reasons, like, you know, Dylan running his mouth, egging him on. He responded. Okay. And even though it was in defense of his family, of his father, and thinks he's like, oh, Dylan's such and such, his father's not happy. So he could get, like, maybe he gets some of his money back from the commission, which, by the way, hasn't happened yet. They're discussing him not getting any of it.
Yep. Yeah, but he got paid from I forget the guy's name that paid him his purse. So he didn't get paid from the UFC, but he got paid for his fight.
But yeah, there's a lot to consider in this shit. Like right now, him and Conor are actually both on fucking the 10-day suspension pending a review of whatever penalty the commission's going to hand down. It's fucking crazy. But I would hate, like even Counter said, like they need to take it easy on Habib. This guy doesn't have a history of being a fucking troublemaker, of getting into any fucking mix-ups like this. Granted, this was bad, but don't rob us of a rematch. Don't rob us of fucking finally Tony versus, like, don't rob us of one of those two great fights behind something that, like, you didn't hammer other people as hard for doing because, okay, Conor didn't get fucking hammered down for the bus bullshit. Fucking DC and Jones, like, fucking started their fight early at a fucking face-off, and they didn't get hammered as bad as, like, they took this man's entire fucking purse. They took Conor's. They gave Conor's back, and then started discussing, all right, well, Habib was a little worse, so how about we keep all 2 or whatever millions of his dollars? Like,
it was 2.
It's bullshit. Yeah, it's bullshit. Like, even Dana said, fine him $250,000. If you gotta suspend him, give him 4 or 6 months, something, where he'd be still able to train, still able to get ready for a fight that could be announced after the suspension is over. And he said absolutely keep his belt. So nobody here wants to see him lose, which he earned fair and square. But You know, the fucking commissions out there, we don't know what these jokers are going to do because you know they can either fall far short of a punishment they should hand out or they can way overstep their fucking bounds with it. And even though, you know, Dana's he's not in the fucking good graces of everybody on our show here, but he doesn't think that he should face like a fucking hefty suspension or be fined so heavily. He said they shouldn't be able to keep all his money. But he also said if they fucking suspend him for too long, he's got to strip him. And I don't want to see that happen. I don't want to see that guy, like, I'm not a Habib fan, but I don't want to see that guy get his belt taken from him. I want to see if somebody comes along before he stops fighting and beats him for it. Because the same way I would say Bones was a force of nature at light heavyweight, that's Habib at lightweight. Nobody will be the champ if you don't beat one of them two guys at their weights. Because when they were doing it, it was like it couldn't be done.
Yeah, well, you know, we're going to be waiting to see about that, but it is the time where we are getting ready to wrap up the show. Guys, 100 episodes, you know, it is a milestone. It's a wonderful feeling that we've been doing this long together. We've had some amazing guests on for these past 100 episodes. Aljamain Sterling, Eddie Gordon. You know, tonight we had the great Stitch Duran on. We've had fighters on from all other organizations. Roberto in the 1 week that Omar decided to take off when we struck our deal with Fightbook. It's been a very, very fun year. It's great that we have Kareem on the panel now. We do miss our two former buddies that were on here, Chris and Carl Gucci. It'd be nice to talk to them again on here. But, guys, this is only 100 episodes. We've got a hell of a lot more coming. We've got a hell of a lot of good things coming for us in this coming new year here at Pride Rules MMA. Next week, we are trying to set up Matt Delanoy to come on the show again. If you guys remember him, he was fighting for Shamrock Fighting Championship. Mm-hmm. He was a very interesting guest to have on. Excellent trash talker. He got screwed over at Unified MMA. I'm not going to get into the specifics now. You guys can look it up, check it out, so you make sure that you come and listen in. But he's going to come on here and bash that former company that he was working for. So, till next week, guys, shout-outs to our sponsors who have been with us since the very beginning. 80K Fightwear, Black Hole Jiu-Jitsu, Madama Jiu-Jitsu, 2-Minute Warning Sports 360, our family over there at Fightbook MMA. I am your host, the Reverend Tommy D, joined with me by Kareem the Dream, El Profesor, Omar Sangarima. We are Pride Rules Podcast. Thank you for joining us for our 100th celebration. Good night.
And my balls was hot.